Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our concert as part of the St. Mark's Music Series, and welcome to the Cathedral. Before we hear this afternoon's wonderful concert, a couple of things. Firstly, a huge thank you to the many of you who've contributed financially to this concert series. As you probably know, our concerts and their live streams are funded entirely by the money that is donated to us, and literally we could not continue without your support. So if you'd like to become a supporting member of the music series, you can either visit our cathedral/music and click on the Support the St. Mark's Music Series, or you can leave a massive quantity of bills or loose change in the bowls by the doors. And secondly, looking ahead to our upcoming concerts, next month we have Richard Gray performing an organ recital here on the 9th, and the Mill City String Quartet on the 16th. Also, tickets are available for the Great British Christmas Concert that we will be doing on December the 20th, so better get yours soon before they all sell out, really. So, having silenced your cell phones, please, big St. Mark's welcome for Elizabeth Wolfff.
And John Cunningham, because they initiated this, and they are my today's heroes. So, can't hear you now. Can you hear me? Is that better? Okay. Well, I'm congratulating Sally and John for picking out the most beautiful place in the entire universe to have me be able to play, and I'm just so grateful to share with you a few of the composers that I've loved and their great piano works, and to feel free to ask any questions before, during, or after. So I'm going to start with, actually, it almost doesn't matter, but the variations on a theme by Robert Schumann that are so divine and so small and so snug that they make a really beautiful, I think, opening. I got interested in key relationships when I was living in New York, because there was a big festival on key relationships for music and what they mean and what key choices, the choices that the composers have, why they pick what they pick. And with that came in, this is the 13th and 14th century, but that came out great writings describing what keys personality, what keys are. So a C major, but so I could do that. And I could go up to the, get the same harmonic congestion, but I'm not going to get the same oral input. And so the F sharp minor of the Brahms Schumann variations had, because it was an early arrival in this diagnosis of what they do, et cetera, this great quote from an expert at that time of why keys were done, why a composer used a key. And this is the description of the F sharp minor, and if we have a chance, I'll maybe go through the Corelli and the Beethoven as well. The F sharp minor is a gloomy key. I think all minor keys are gloomy, but they obviously at that time felt that strong connection to each individual key relationship. F sharp minor is a gloomy key. It tugs at passion as a dog biting a dress. Resentment and discontent are its language. It really does not seem to like its own position. Therefore, it languishes ever for the calm of A major or for the triumphant happiness of D. So, and how true that is, we don't really know, but I think there is a proclivity towards a favorite idea from certain composers. Beethoven will see at the end, look what he's writing in the most primitive, prominent, and powerful key of them all, basically. So this is the variations on a theme of Schumann that I did in my debut, and also the fact that I carried this and still do, because I think the variation form is at once most gratifying, but the most difficult thing to stay in bounds with by virtue of the shortness of its description. And then we have 5, 10, 15 variations that go on from that. And hopefully in this set, which is so beautiful, Opus 9, so it's young, that you'll hear that tune. And the idea is to see what that tune is able to do. So here, with no further ado, is Opus 9, written in 1824, the variations in F sharp minor, on a theme by Schumann. Did I say Brahms? then the Corelli variations. That's my other favorite thing with I have on the top of this, Bless This Mess, because they are impossibly difficult, but they are so divine. And he wrote, I think there's a thing that Rick and I quoted on the Corellis. He had trouble with these when he went to the States and played them. Because no one really cared. No one cared that much about him. They certainly didn't care about this piece, and actually they didn't want to hear this piece. He said Rachmaninoff got really upset. He wrote to his very close friend, violinist. Violinist. Oh, should I use this? Is that better? Oh, that makes a difference, doesn't it? Okay, I just have to read the quote that Rachmaninoff said, because it's so funny and it's so unbelievably true of the starving musician. He dedicated the piece, the Corelli Variations, to his friend Chris Kreisler, and then another friend of his, Metner. Both of them got his same critique about what was happening when he played the Corelli Variations. I've played the Variations 15 times, but of these 15 performances, only one was good. The others were sloppy. I can't play my own compositions, exclamation mark. And it's so boring. Not once have I played all these in continuity. I was guided by the coughing of the audience, which is still true today. I'm convinced that's exactly what, if they're coughing, get out of there. So he said, it's not boring. Not once have I played all of these in continuity. I was guided by the coughing of the audience. Whenever the coughing would increase, I would skip the next variation. Whenever there was no coughing, I would play them in proper order. But in one concert, and I don't remember where, some small town, he says, some small town, the coughing was so violent that I played only 10 variations out of 20. And my best record was set in Yay, Rah, Rah, New York. He didn't say yay, rah, rah, but I do, in New York, where I played 18 variations. However, I hope that you will play all of them and won't cough. So he had a lot of problem because people tend to, if their concentration isn't sublime, divine, or an ether wave somewhere, they tend to cough because it's a nervous reaction, I think, to what's going on up here, as well as the dryness of the air and the lack of beverages to help that out. So, that makes me feel better about playing this, because there'll probably be some wrong notes because it's extremely difficult, but he absolutely was madly in love with the theme of the Corelli theme itself, and made this incredible set of variations. I think it's Opus 42, and I've just been so lucky to have found it and learned it. When I was here, when I actually came here before, I was out east, and knowing Claude Frank at the Aspen Music Festival, Lee Foley was my friend at the time when I was living here at the very beginning, and he said, go to Aspen and see if you can get some support and some help, and ask Claude Frank, because I know him. So I went to Claude Frank's studio, and he invited me in, and he said, what can I do for you? And I said, just help me learn how to play these pieces. And he said, I've never heard of them. So it was like, now I know, you just work on what you know, love, and just keep getting it more and more refined, and it probably works just fine. But I fell in love with Rachmaninoff, so I literally am so excited to have done them, and to put them on my debut, and to put an extended career towards Rachmaninoff in general, including going to Russia to play there. And I took the Rachmaninoff variations on the theme of Chopin there, because they're not played often, and someone screened from the end of the concert there. They're really not great pieces. They're based on that very short C minor prelude of Chopin. These, I think, this is an Opus 42, and the Corelli theme is so well known at this point too. And if you cough, I really totally forgive you. And if you like them, to spread the word that they're alive and well, and I think really deserve incredible commentary by the audiences. The ending is the only thing that gives you a little bit of time off from the point of view of volume a bit, and incredibly difficult. You're welcome to look at my score. You can barely see the notes in it, trying to find fingerings that will suit his huge hand and a small hand that I have. And all of that has made it difficult, but wow, do I love that man. So here are the Opus 42 on a theme of variations on Corelli. hanging on to his name. Should I take a break? Do you want to? The next is about 20 minutes, I think the Beethoven is. So I don't know if, do you want to take a break? Is that, I'm not sure. Ray? Yeah. The fingers probably don't care, but the brain probably does. So maybe just a few minutes, is that okay? Just a stand and stretch? Okay. Thank you. Yeah, I was. onward and definitely upward, right? The last work I'm going to do is Opus 111. Oh, sorry. The last work, that does make a difference, that I'll do is Opus 111, which whenever my time is to be out of this particular planet, I hope I join him, because Beethoven, I think, is the most unbelievably, extremely human person of a human race. If anybody here has done the experimenting I have about trying to go deaf intentionally in order not to find out what could be wrong with anything else, or how we compensate, or how we do things, I keep thinking, here's a man who literally, what is the one thing he needs? And he needs his ears, and he didn't have them. As a youngster, he didn't have them. And I was going to bring because I'll break down, I didn't, the Heidelberg Testament, which is his when he was very young, 18, I think, he went into the fields and wrote it as his own obituary, and asked for forgiveness from his God, and that he would not be making it much longer. That's how much the deafness had, at an early age, taken his life. And all I could think of is, as I read that, not only the unfairness, but I think about the things that he's missed, that he's done, and has missed the joy of, except for the most internal. And I'm hoping that all of us, or at least I, can learn to do that. Then when, if Alzheimer's is the case in my case, that I grow beyond that and work with what I've been given at this later stage of my life. And in his case, he had absolutely the worst thing happen to him, because it's his hearing. And so I got on the championship road of finding out how one can function as he did and lose that hearing. And there are patterns that he had developed that I wanted, and when I was living in New York, and doctors were really thinking that I was onto something that showed what the inclination was. And I'm hoping to keep at least being able to do that, to seek, if not an answer, some feeling of gratitude that I've known him in those best days, which were the younger opuses, and in those days where he had absolutely no hearing. And I've done this before. I've gone around in our apartment, and I would close my eyes and not see anything, so I would bump into it. And then I would plug my ears, and Rick would say, the phone just rang, and I wouldn't hear it. And so I would be missing already maybe 15 minutes, all of life. And here he picks the one profession that absolutely demands his hearing, and he lost it. And he lost it when he was young. And then I think to myself, how did they get these scores? I mean, this work alone, if that was all he did, how did they get the scores to a publisher of some kind? How did he know where to contact and who to contact to have somebody perform this? How did he know how to use his ink with drawing the 5 little lines and spaces? How did he know where they were when he literally didn't know what he was hearing? So the complications kept expounding even greater and greater. And then when I read, which is true, it's a true story, but he lost, he had the 9th Symphony premiered, and he was the conductor, and the audience went insane. They went absolutely berserk. And he just stood there facing the orchestra, because he had no idea that anyone was even applauding, let alone who was there if there was an audience. So he just stood there, and someone from the audience came down. It just gives me tears, because he comes down and turns him around, and they're going crazy. And so I'm thinking to myself, well, Liz, the least you can do is spend your last years devoted to this composer whose inkwell must have run dry all the time, who had absolutely no secure income of any kind except the horse and buggy that would take his manuscript, get it rejected or accepted, never hear from him again, not get performed, not get published, and not get paid. And he did this as a lifelong endeavor. And this is his final statement at the piano, which I think is the definitive work, and thank heavens there are many of the colleagues of mine in the other side of the coin, in the writing area, who do the same thing. And so I was going to read a little bit, which I might not, because I'll probably break down, but when the fictional, there's a Thomas Mann's fictional music teacher, Wendell Kreshner, probably people, you know that. The final statement of the first part of the theme, and at the end of the aria, is something entirely unexpected and touching in its mildness and goodness. The C sharp is the most moving, consolatory, pathetically reconciling thing in the world. It is like having one's hair or cheek stroked, lovingly, understandingly, like a deep and silent farewell look. It blesses the object, the frightfully harried formulation, with overpowering humanity, lies imparting so gently on the hearer's heart in external farewell that the eyes run over. Beethoven writes in his conversation book just shortly after, the moral law is within us and the starry heavens above us. He did believe so strongly that there are two things that raise men above themselves and lead to this upward striving wonder. The moral law within us, I wish there was so much more of that, the moral law within us and the starry sky above us. That's a safety zone for him or somebody who's lost that unbelievably important ingredient in a compositional life. There's a good quote that I like that I usually read before I start practicing, is from Lewis Lockwood. He has a quote on the Count Raving, on his great sonata, he calls it. It is the spirit of the mortal, vulnerable human being striving against the odds to hold his moral being steady in order to gather strength as an artist and to strive toward the heavens. It is this conjoining that we feel at the end of Opus 111 and a few other moments in Beethoven's last works. They are moments that few composers before or ever after him ever have quite achieved. And that's what is so devastatingly beautiful, but this piece floats off. You'll hear the tune of the last movement, which is so simple and so touching, and it gets modified. And when I went to Juilliard, someone saw how lost I was in the hall, and they took me to a recital, just a student recital, so I could hear a little bit of what kind of caliber I was going to be working with, et cetera, as a student. And this woman was playing 111, and I started giggling because there is a section of the last movement that goes into a jazz formation. Bum. And I started giggling, thinking that she went Looney Tunes. She just lost it. She had to leave. She had whatever it was, and nothing was wrong. That's exactly what's going on in the last movement. There are two movements, and then that movement, the theme is simple, a very, very sweet, simple tune, and it gets more complicated, and the rhythms start doubling up on themselves. The rhythm goes da da dee da 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 until it beats up into that category. And it fades away absolutely unbelievably, like step after step, snow flurry after snow flurry, until it goes into nothing but trills. And he ends the tune of the original theme on its high note, way up in the ether waves, until it evaporates. It's the most devastating piece I've ever encountered for piano. And I think what makes me so want to continue to work, even though this could be a great retirement ending of stories, but is the fact that when one works that compassionately and is from love, then it's bound to be useful. It has to be useful. So this is 111, and the second, as I said, the second movement, you'll hear that jazz, and so many people have written about Lewis Lockwood is a wonderful writer on it. What he does until he gets through it and gets past that, and then it goes into the ether waves, and you think he's lost. But he's just way up in the high treble clef until he finally gives the last verb of the sonata itself. So I'm not sure if yeah, okay, just as long as you're